Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today for Tutorial Tuesday, I thought I would do something a little bit different. If you guys don't already know, I am a photographer by trade. You can actually check out my website. It's linked down below. I also have an Etsy shop if you're looking for some fine art prints. But what really got me into photography, and then I guess makeup as well, is basically Photoshop. Like, I love Photoshop. I love photoshopping skin. I love being able to do whatever you want. I love the idea of being able to do like plastic surgery to your own face or to like a client that you're working on if they have a trouble spot. On one hand, I know that definitely means that we are buying into unrealistic expectations of beauty and beauty standards that are oftentimes not possible. But on the other hand, I think it's a really kind of freeing expression of self-expression and that you are really unlimited. It's like drawing a portrait of yourself, or I don't know, it's just a really fun, soothing experience for me. When I was younger, I definitely had more of an issue of how I was represented in photos, and I would Photoshop my photos a lot more just for like everyday photos, which is like a problem. Like, there's a problem there. But as I have become older, I've definitely relaxed with like self-image and just like being more accepting of who I am and what I look like and like the trouble areas that I see when I look at my face. Now I Photoshop my photos a lot less often. If I do, it's usually just like skin and then maybe like a little bit of contouring, just like the minimal amount of stuff. But I thought today I could go from barefaced and then Photoshop myself to something. I don't know if I'm gonna end up with like a bare face kind of neutral look, or if I'm gonna go a little bit more crazy and add some more like virtual makeup. I'm just gonna kind of see where today takes me. And afterwards, I'm gonna take my fresh face and try to recreate that with makeup. I have always considered myself a better digital artist than a makeup artist. Like, I'm not a makeup artist at all, although I do wear makeup a lot of the time in my real life. So I feel like I have a lot of like control and I'm able to see things better digitally than I am in real life. Honestly, I'm really happy with the way I look, and I currently am not interested in getting any sort of filler or surgery to adjust my face. But that being said, when I open up Photoshop, like, things might get pinched or like pushed in, or you know, it's just an exercise in imagination and kind of a reimagining of what one's ideal self might look like. So with that, let us get started. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and take a picture just with my little filming studio background. So first, let me grab a headshot to work with. This involves posing in front of the camera and taking like 15-20 photos before you get one that you're happy with. The first thing that I'm going to do is just focus on correcting some of the acne. I use the Band-Aid tool and just really quickly go around and take out any weird skin textures. Here we have the problem that my glasses were dirty when I took the photo, something that you can easily change by washing your glasses first. Obviously, if there's any moles, you want to leave the moles, but any acne or just weird texture issues that aren't kind of a permanent feature of your face, I prefer to get rid of them on my own face. Okay, so now that the major acne part is taken out, the next thing that I want to really work on is just skin smoothing. I will just kind of show you how you would do it to smooth skin, but also preserve a lot of texture. The last step we can do to that is to add some noise back in, so there is just a tiny little bit of texture. It's not completely smooth looking. Now we are just going to paint on the skin smoothing anywhere we want our skin to look smooth. Now this isn't going to be a final state. We definitely need to dial it back and then add some texture on top. But this is just going to kind of be like our foundation layer. So now I have basically eradicated most of the texture on my skin, and I really want to not have that happen in my final photo. I'm going to grab the edges of basically any high contrast areas in my skin. So basically this is what a textured photo of my skin would look like. And this is how we're going to control what texture we want to see. So I can kind of dial it back so you can still see a bunch of the pores on my skin without seeing like every little ounce of texture and wrinkle on my skin. So it's a beauty photo, so I'm gonna go fairly low on the amount of texture. I'm gonna do about a 7 radius. So there's my skin filter on and off, and now again I can actually control how much texture I want to have showing. Obviously it still looks really artificial, but we can continue to adjust that. So how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to lower the opacity of the skin smoothing like background layer. And again, I can control exactly how smooth or how artificial basically I want this photo to look, how perfect I want my skin to look. You can see as I turn the whole filter on and off, it doesn't look like super artificial. And the main goal is I'm not losing too much detail while I'm doing that. It still looks about the same, but you can see the shadows aren't quite as contrasty as they were before, and a lot of the unwanted texture is gone. I could probably stop here, although I would probably want to address a couple things like the bags under my eyes. You really want to zoom out and kind of look at the whole photo and not go too crazy with it. That's honestly the hardest part. It's so hard to look at yourself critically, but without like adding all that baggage of like, oh yeah, these are my weaknesses. Like my insecurity is my really dark eye bags. If I want to reduce some more of the blueness around there, I can just go in, just like if I was using makeup. I'm going to pick a nice peachy color and literally just paint it. Now we can just kind of compare the before and after there, and it's just a slight like warming up of the skin. It's nothing crazy, but as you can see in the before and after, it does make quite a big difference, and I wish my eyes could like look like that naturally without actually having to do anything. I think I'm pretty happy with this. I think I've decided this is going to be kind of a no makeup look. So the next thing I'm going to go do is my eyebrows. This is really just like your powder layer on your eyebrows, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Then if you want to go back in and fill in some hair, I could literally just go in, try to grab a fairly dark brown color, and with a tiny little brush, I can just paint in the hairs. So what else can we do? We can slightly reduce, like I feel like in some areas of my face there is a little bit of like pinkness. And I'm doing this because although before we did smooth out the skin, we didn't, like if you apply foundation, it's definitely going to help like minimize pinkness or redness. And I'm just going to look at my CYMK levels and just kind of reduce the magenta a little bit. You can see in all the places I have a dropper, I am a little bit more magenta than I am anything else. So we're looking really good. I think the next thing we can do is just do a little bit of eye makeup. This is actually like kind of a pretty fun thing. I'm going to add a little bit of like fake eyeliner. I'm just gonna do some old school dodging and burning, which if you've done any film development, you'll know that burning is just making areas darker and dodging is making areas lighter. And I'm basically just like tight lining. One more thing with the eyes, I'm going to again go in with Hue Sat. I'm going to just reduce the reds and maybe a little bit of the yellows. But this can just kind of help control the redness, and you can even go along the bottom of your eye, sort of on that bottom tight line, as though you tight lined with like a fleshy colored pencil. Kind of subtle, but it also makes like a huge difference on the final image. Let's do some fake lashes just to make my eyes look a little bit more luscious looking and beautiful. I actually have a set of lash brushes that I regularly use, and they are just kind of these natural looking lashes. You can see what they look like there. And you can see it doesn't add too much, but it adds like enough something that it looks, I think it adds a lot, I don't know. And then again, we're gonna do that on the bottom lashes as well. Contouring and highlight, and again, to do this I'm just going to use some old school dodging and burning. And I know that normally you would just kind of like contour around the cheek area, but I don't like to like really emphasize how cheeky my cheeks are, so I kind of do the whole like lower beard zone if that makes sense. And I'm also just going to hit the tip of my nose just to make that a little bit more pointy, and even take that up into the eyebrows. That looks absolutely insane. That's what we're going for. Let's do one more fill layer. This time I'm gonna do some dodging, which is lightening of areas in photographic terminology. And that is just a very subtle, quick face shaping. Again, you don't want to go too far, but a little bit never hurt anybody. Normally I wouldn't do this, but let's just take it a little bit further. Let's do a little bit of actual face shaping with the liquify tool. I'm just going to go in and just kind of pinch the bridge of my nose, just because I'm really sensitive about how like bulbous my nose is. Maybe give myself a slightly more mischievous expression. And maybe just give my eyes a really quick tap with the bloat tools just to make them look slightly larger. And then maybe with the bloat tool one more time, I'll just go in and very, very lightly bloat my lips. I'd say more importantly for me would just be to even the lips out, because they can look a little lopsided. Let's hit OK. And there is the like face surgery tool. Which, I don't know, maybe we can attempt to do that with makeup. We'll see exactly how we go. And honestly, I think it doesn't really add too much to my face. I think it makes it look a little less like me. But it's a fun experiment to do. Just add a little bit of blush. We can add a little bit more highlight or like lip gloss to the lip area if we wanted to. So I'm just going to select the lips. I like that it adds that little tiny pop on the top of the lip as well. And we can go in and recolor the lips as well if we feel like it. That's something I really love doing. It's just kind of a fun thing. Alright, I think we've gone quite a far ways away from what I actually normally would look like. Again, I do think this is a lot of fun. There is some texture that if I really wanted to, I could go back and reduce that even further as well. But for the most part, I'm pretty darn happy with that. Let's get rid of my hand here. And there we have a before and after. Obviously a little aggressive on the nose and the lips, but just kind of a fun experiment today in Photoshop, editing my face. It's been about 15 minutes inside of Photoshop, just kind of playing around and experimenting, and oops, gotta turn the hair layer back on. And I think it's a great tool to have in your kit and to be able to play with, to express yourself, and to be able to do these kind of weird changes to your face if that is what you feel like doing that day. Let's start with acne removal, something that I think is pretty hard to get right in real life for someone like me who's got a lot of little red spots. So next I went in with my foundation layer, which is something that in real life I would do the other way around. But for today, let's go ahead. I feel like already I'm a lot less red, probably because it's been an hour since I washed my face while I was photoshopping. Next, let's do the bags under my eyes. So I'm just going to go in with some kind of salmon-y concealer. This is just from an NYX palette. And then after that, I'm just going to layer on the Age Rewind from Maybelline, which is more of like a skin tone color. One nice thing about virtual makeup is there's no need for powdering, so I am gonna just quickly do a really light powder. Next I tackle brows, and I'm gonna go in with a powder first. In the photo you can only see one eyebrow anyway, so. Obviously I don't need to do any color correction of my skin because putting that foundation layer on did kind of like match everything. Of course we can do one of my favorite parts, the good old tight lining. And I'm just gonna grab my It Cosmetics pencil. If I find that I do want to come up a little bit, really just pressing it into the lash line with the intent of having it pretty much invisible. I guess I did go in with a second layer of tight lining, so you know what, I'm going to risk the liquid liner and just try to get that as close to my lash line as possible. Just because I think that darkness there is important for making your eye look slightly larger. Mascara, I'm just going to use my Monsieur Big from Lancome and just really focus on getting my lashes separated and dark looking. I wasn't wearing mascara in the before photo, but if you don't like having your photo taken and you don't want to put makeup on for your photo, maybe reconsider when it comes to mascara because it makes your eyes look so different. And it's just like a tiny little thing that you can do to make your eyes look a lot more like large and bright just from that contrast that your lashes will give you. Alright, next we can move on to contouring. Now contouring scares the heck out of me in real life, but let's sort of try to emulate. I'm just using my It Cosmetics contour palettes, and I kind of just contour this whole side of my face. Obviously I can't liquefy my face, but I could go in and tightline under my eye with a light pencil to kind of emphasize the bottom lash line. And from my nose, I'm going to attempt to kind of push in the tip to make it look a little less bulbous and a little bit more pointy. And we can repeat that with the highlight down the bridge of the nose, on the forehead, under the brow, cheeks, chin, forehead. And for my highlight, I just use a combination of the matte and radiance in the palette here. I can't do too much with my lips, but I can definitely kind of overdraw them. I'm definitely better at that in Photoshop than I am in real life. For blush, I'm just gonna take my Too Faced Love Blush, and I'm just gonna sweep that kind of like I did in all over the cheek area, maybe more than what a normal person would do. Again, maybe having glasses kind of helps hide that, but also just like going with the big fat cheek thing. On my lips, I actually do a gloss first and then go in with color, which is really not something that I do in real life. So I'm just gonna add my Too Faced lip injection just to maybe add a little bit more plump, maybe. And then I go in with some brighter pink color. So I'm just gonna use this. It is a multi-stick from Bite Beauty, and it's in the color Mochi. And just on top of the gloss. It's kind of a reddish color, but it's also kind of like just a bright pink if you like stain it out. And maybe a little bit more gloss on top. And that is it. So let's compare how well I did with the makeup to how I would feel more comfortable doing it in Photoshop. What do you guys think? Did I recreate my Photoshop look decently in real life? Do you guys think that this is somehow more honest than doing it in Photoshop? Do you think it's like really messed up that girls like me worry about the shape of our nose or the shape of our lips or our eyelashes? Do you think that it's somehow more legitimate to like work on these changes to your faces yourself than it is to like be a model and have someone else or a company or a brand make you over in a different way than how you would imagine that you look? There is just a world of ethical issues around like photoshopping, and not just photoshopping, but in photography in general. It's in my opinion, as soon as you're behind the lens, even in video, like you're lit a certain way, you're using different lenses, how colors are represented are quite different than how they are in reality. How well your camera can see is a lot different than how our eyes see things. So there's just a million different things that affect reality versus like photography or videography. So I want you to always be a little bit skeptical of what you're seeing, but not skeptical in like a dismissive or critical way, but just like an acknowledgement that like there is no way for, like if I sat down next to you, I'm not gonna look like I do on your computer screen. Like you're gonna be able to see me more close up. You're gonna see textures in a different way than the camera and lights capture it. There are so many like nuances that affect how we are able to digitally represent ourselves. And there's also this weird line of how much do we like manipulate that image, since we do have the tools to do so. Me without makeup looks completely different than me with makeup, or me with virtual makeup. Is one more ethical than the other? Does it make a difference if I'm the artist or not? Those are obviously a ton of questions, a ton of things for us to think about as consumers and as artists and beauty lovers. And was it not Andy Warhol who like thought of acne as like a temporary thing? So like having a representation of yourself without this temporary thing that's not actually you might not be that big of a deal. Whereas other people feel a lot better knowing that they see other people with acne. So maybe like covering it up at all, even with makeup, makes people feel a lot worse about themselves. I don't know, it's a journey that we're gonna have to like kind of think about and navigate by ourselves with each other and with the brands and images and the media that we see. There's like no quick answer, I don't think. What have I personally learned from this experience? I have learned that when I contour in Photoshop, I contour a lot differently than I would in real life. I'm a lot less afraid to like kind of go into the beard area and just kind of slim down all of my face, kind of get it a little bit more pointy. I am a lot less afraid to go in really heavy-handed and then take it off afterwards, whereas in real life with makeup, it's exactly the opposite. I tend to go maybe too light and then either just leave it or attempt to apply more and blend it off. But it's kind of like the reverse process where you add a little bit, see how that looks, blend it out, and then go ahead and add more. I also found out that this photoshopped image took me about 53-ish minutes from opening to closing, kind of playing around, taking my time, figuring out what I wanted in my image. And in real life, it took me maybe like 20 minutes straight. Obviously, I had to stop and like follow along with the video, but I have a lot less patience for makeup in real life than I do in Photoshop, where I feel a lot more comfortable experimenting, playing with colors, playing with how the light looks. Whereas in real life, I'm just kind of like close enough to what I was thinking, and that's gonna be fine. And even with blending, I'm just kind of like put it on, blend it out. If you can't see it, just roll with it. I also find that I love in Photoshop how you can see like before and after. You can quickly turn off all the layers and see like, did that do anything? Because oftentimes when I put my under eye concealer on or when I'm covering up my acne, I'm like, I feel like I still don't look as good as like I should be. So me putting all this product didn't really do anything. So if I ever feel like that in Photoshop, it's really easy just to like go back to the start, compare it to what you've done, and then adjust after you've seen those two extremes. Anyway, I thought this was a really fun project. It's something that I've been thinking about and planning to do forever. I would really love to do another one where I add either too much makeup digitally, or I start with makeup and kind of improve a look that I've done before. If you guys have any recommendations for ideas that I could do, bringing in my love of digital art and photography into the world of makeup, definitely leave your comments below. I do have an exciting project coming up for Halloween that I won't talk about quite yet, but prosthetics may or may not be involved. So I could see where that has a ton of potential. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope it was a fun experience. I hope you enjoyed seeing kind of behind the scenes in skin retouching. And if you do retouch your own photos, I would say the most important thing would be to check the before and after. Don't go too heavy-handed with it. Like everybody does. Like everybody goes heavy-handed. It's just this disconnect between looking at ourselves and imagining ourselves, I think. And the other thing would be, it's okay to like blur out your skin, but you also want to add in texture some way. So don't just worry about like blurring all over. Either just blur the areas where you need to blur, like in your acne areas, or blur all over, reduce that opacity, and then add some skin texture back in somehow or another. I know it's kind of tricky on your phone, but even if you can just like increase the sharpness somehow or something, I think that can make a big difference. Of course, if you enjoyed today's video, if you had some fun with me today, give me a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you'd like to see more beauty videos from me. Leave your requests for other videos for Tutorial Tuesdays, or if you have any questions about retouching or anything down below for me. If you'd like to help support my channel, you can always check me out over on Patreon, where you can donate as little as $2 per month to help support my channel. And aside from that, I will see you all tomorrow in my next beauty video. Bye!